how do you help an analytical person go into hypnosis? And, how do you get them into a trance? And then she also asked, how do you do rapid inductions? Do rapid inductions really work? And I replied to her and I said, I'm probably not the person to ask because I use hypnosis to help people change habits and behaviors and experience breakthroughs, to overcome trauma, to stop anxiety. And I don't actually think that trance or rapid inductions are necessary for either of those. So I don't put a strong focus on trance. And as an analytical person myself, I experienced frustration when one of the biggest reasons I became a hypnotist is because I went to see some hypnotists first, and I felt like I wasn't good at it. I felt like I didn't know what I was doing. I felt like they weren't good at it and they didn't know what they were doing. I'm like, I'm not going into a trance. This isn't working. So I decided I'm going to learn this myself. I'm going to become a hypnotist. And in learning hypnosis, I started to understand what trance is, how an analytical person can go into trance, and why trance isn't necessary. So I'm going to talk a little bit, I'm going to unpack that a little bit. So after I replied to this person with that answer, she replied back and she said, well, I guess I just want to know what trance feels like. What's it supposed to feel like? Because I explained to her that one of the things Mike Mandel taught me is that anything that assumes trance causes trance. And this is a fancy way of saying, if you pretend to be in a trance, you're in a trance. So let's talk about what trance is. And oh my gosh, this is such a wide subject. There are so many different definitions of trance. And so I'm not going to give you a definitive definition, but I'm going to explain hypnosis in the way that Jason Linett explained it. This is his part of his pre-talk, and I loved it so much that it's what I often explain to people. And that is when a person is in a trance, sometimes, and this is like the kind of traditional trance you think of when you think of the movies where somebody's dangling a pocket watch in front of their eyes and they are zoning out, or you think of, for me, it's like the Scooby-Doo movies. I wasn't allowed to watch Scooby-Doo as a kid because it had hypnosis in it, and I was taught that hypnosis was evil. So, but when you think of Scooby-Doo, it's like people walking around in like zombies, and there's these like swirly things on the TV screen to know they're in a trance. Or you might imagine a person in a stage show who's just like slumped over and just checked out. So if you were to think of trance as a state of deep, deep relaxation, here's how Jason Linett explains it. When a person is in a trance, you might experience, some people when they go into trance, they experience like this heavy sinking in sensation, almost as if they're melting into the surface beneath them. And sometimes when a person is in a trance, they experience a light, kind of like a light floating sensation, as if they're floating up above the surface. And some people, when they're in a trance, they experience the mysterious sensation of just sitting in that chair and listening to my voice. And whatever you experience is right for you. And so if you, like me, are an analytical person and you've maybe watched stage hypnosis shows and you see people clucking like chickens and barking like dogs, and it just seems like this crazy experience where someone has taken over their mind, which is why so many people are afraid of hypnosis, because it can look like mind control. If you're wondering what that's like, I just want to say, I understand how you feel. I feel that way too. And when I learned from Mike Mandel that anything that assumes trance causes trance, which means if you pretend to be in a trance, you're in a trance, it was really helpful for him to explain trance indicators. So when a person is in a trance, often, you'll notice that the muscles in their face start to relax. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know trance indicators that well, because for me to try to micromanage what someone else is doing is really difficult. So I just assume they're in a trance when I start talking. And that's where this intention piece comes in. If you imagine that you are speaking to that person's unconscious mind, you are always having two conversations. You're having a conversation with your conscious mind, with your words, with the thinking part of you, and you're having an unconscious conversation with subtle micro expressions on your face, body, like the way you're moving your body. You're having a conversation with your body, which I believe the body is the unconscious mind, and I can maybe unpack that in a moment if I remember to come back to it. But you're having a conversation with the body. And when your intention is, I am talking to this person's unconscious mind, which is the whole point of putting a person in a trance, guess what? You're talking to their unconscious mind, and their unconscious mind is listening to you. So I believe that intention is more important than looking at these trance indicators. When I was in elementary school, which was a really unpleasant experience for me. I was like the social outcast who didn't have any friends. And I would watch, I would listen. I tried my best just to be invisible. So I don't remember anyone ever saying this to me, but I would watch other kids like pick on somebody and say, oh, Susie is zoning out right now. Look at her. And it's this time when, you've just seen someone kind of staring blankly ahead, and they're zoning out, and you can tell they're not really here. They're somewhere else in their mind. They're not paying attention to what's happening right here, right now. And that's what trance looks like. So a person can go into a trance with their eyes open or with their eyes closed. If you have ever pulled into your driveway after a long drive and not remembered how you got there because you were just kind of driving, you weren't paying attention to what you're doing, you were just driving there automatically, that is a trance. So for people who are analytical, it might be helpful to know that trance is a very natural state, and that we go into it often. We're always going in and out of trances. If you've ever watched a TV show and you've been so engrossed in the TV show that you didn't hear someone talking to you, that's a trance. If you've ever been so engrossed in the movie that you jump when the bad guy appears, that's a trance. If you've ever cried when something sad happens on the movie, even though it's not happening in real life, you're so immersed in something that's not happening right here, right now, that you are in a trance. So when you watch a stage hypnotist put someone into a trance that makes them, stand up and rap like they're a rap star on stage when they've never rapped in their life, or trying to think of some of my favorites, just like do a silly dance. When that happens, it's because the hypnotist has helped that person imagine something so completely, like they have described something with their words in such a realistic way that person is essentially zoning out and doesn't know, isn't thinking about the fact that they're really right here on a stage listening to a hypnotist. In their mind, they've gone into that barnyard and they can smell the straw or whatever it is that's in barnyards, and they can see the hens sitting on their nest, and they think that they are a chicken, and so they start to make chicken noises and move in chicken ways. And anytime you vividly imagine something that's not really happening, you're in a trance. So an excellent way to help you understand how good at this you already are is to know that anytime a person is experiencing anxiety, 99.999 times out of 100, they are going someplace in their mind and they're saying, what if? They're thinking about something scary that could possibly happen, that hasn't happened yet, that isn't happening right now, but they are imagining it so vividly that their heart might be starting to pound, their fists might be starting to clench, their breathing becomes more rapid. Their body is responding to an imaginary movie they're making in their head. A person who struggles with depression is often going back into the past, and they're thinking, oh, if only I didn't do that, if only that situation didn't happen, or because this thing happened, now I'm screwed up. And they're creating a movie in their mind about the past, and they're so focused on something that happened in the past that their body thinks they're there right now, and their body is responding to that thing that has happened in the past in a way that is generating the emotion of depression. And here, oh man, talk about that feeling of heaviness. Sometimes when a person is in a trance, they feel as if they're sinking into the surface beneath them. And as a person the reason I decided to become a hypnotist after I studied it is because it eradicated lifelong depression for me. But I know how depression feels in the body, and it feels like this heavy, like you just don't want to move. And the idea of even standing up feels like too much. And I remember being a hairstylist when I was dealing with depression, and I would sometimes have 12, 13-hour shifts. And I remember standing there and just fantasizing about just being able to go home and curl up in a ball and just be in bed and tune out the rest of the world. And there were times when I missed what my clients were saying to me because I was in such a trance about thinking about how my life sucked. And it's beautiful when you truly understand trance, when you truly understand hypnosis, and you understand that hypnosis happens anytime Freddie Jacquin explains it this way. He says, you create an emotion and you give a suggestion. And emotions come from the body. If you think about, and Shells is here in this room, I just saw a video that she made on TikTok where she said, I've never seen anyone, and I don't know if I'll say this right, Shells, but she said, I've never seen anyone feeling relaxed and light and free and depressed at the same time. Your body dictates your emotions. And so, something might happen that makes a person feel anxious, and it could just be a habit. We actually get into habits of repeating anxious behaviors or depressed behaviors. And when you notice yourself feeling, this, when we talk about emotions, we say, I'm feeling this way. These feelings are coded in the body. And so when we notice ourselves feeling depression, feeling anxiety, feeling a craving, whatever it is, it's because the body is experiencing something where we have an emotion, and then we give ourselves a suggestion, and we're like, oh, this emotion must mean that I'm screwed up because of that past trauma that I experienced in the past. So this emotion means that I need to go and have a piece of cheesecake because I feel like I'm craving, or this feeling means this. We give it a meaning. So we're hypnotizing ourselves all the time with the words that we're saying to ourselves. When I first became a hypnotist, I just geeked out about this stuff, and I'm a why person. Like, I wanted to understand the mechanism underneath. So you analytical people, you should resonate with this. I'm like, why does hypnosis work when it works? And what is hypnosis really? And why don't I feel anything when I'm trying to be hypnotized? And so I was always looking at this, and I was inside a forum, inside Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy, in his Facebook group, just for the people in his academy, which is, by the way, if you are thinking about becoming a hypnotist, I highly recommend Mike Mandel. But I was in there and I was noticing that person after person after person is saying, okay, I'm starting to get it, but I'm not a good hypnotic subject. I can put someone into a trance, but I'm not good at going into a trance. And I have heard hypnotists say this. It's almost like the rule rather the exception, that most hypnotists, if I was in a room full of hypnotists, and I said, who feels like you're not very good at going into a trance? I promise you, almost all the hands would go up. And so as I was thinking of this, I was going through the training with an eye for understanding what trance is and how a person can get good at it, because we analytical people just want to be good at everything. And that's why when Mike said anything that assumes trance causes trance, it really jumped out at me. So then I asked the same question that the person who I'm making this video for asked me, which is, well, how do I fake being in how do I pretend to be in a trance? What does a trance look like? So one of the things that you'll notice when a person is in trance is called catalepsy. And I know many of you who are here listening to me know what that is, but for those of you who are not hypnotists, which, by the way, I'm so grateful you're watching, because I want to make this content relevant for hypnotists and non-hypnotists. So if you're a non-hypnotist, comment below this video. You here in Clubhouse, this is a video I'm going to put up on YouTube later as well. Comment below and let me know that you're here and any questions that you have in the future. So where was I? Okay, catalepsy. So catalepsy is when a person is like in hypnosis, you can help someone get their hand to just float in midair while they zone out. And there's all these, it's called an induction, which is the words that you use to bring somebody into a trance. You can help them like just imagine that your arm is floating. Well, what Mike Mandel taught me is if you have somebody just pretend that their arm is floating in midair, and then I've learned this one from Melissa here. So let's all do this together right now. I invite you to pretend that I'm right there in the room with you right now, and that I'm reaching out and I'm holding onto your wrist and I'm just lifting it up in front of you and just dangling it right here. So if you're listening to me on Clubhouse, or if you're watching this YouTube video, just hold your arm in the air and just pretend that it's maybe sitting on a shelf. Just imagine that it's dangling there all by itself. Or maybe you could imagine that there's a string holding it up. I'm not asking you to do this unconsciously. I'm asking you to consciously, on purpose, do this. And now as you just allow your arm to float there, you just allow your arm to just stay in that spot, nice and relaxed, but suspended in space. I invite you, and this is the part I learned from Melissa Tears, I love this one, just to on purpose zone out. And the way you do that is to find a spot that's in front of you and a little bit above your line of vision. So you're just looking up slightly and comfortably, and just focus intently and intensely on that spot, almost as if you could look right through it. And I'm zoning out as I'm making this video, and it's kind of weird because I can feel myself getting trancy right now. But as you continue to focus on that spot, just allow yourself to become aware of the space around that spot, the space between you and that spot, the space around that hand that's floating, the space between your fingers, the space between your hand and your body. And then you can come back to right now, relax your arm down. So that is an example of pretending to be in a trance. And I've noticed that when I start to do that, one of the best ways to lead someone into hypnosis is to go first. So to get into that trancey space first. And so as I was guiding you there, you might have noticed that my voice started to slow down slightly. I was literally going into a trance because I was zoning out to the point where I felt so comfortable. I just wanted to stop talking. And that's really good. It's good for you to go into a trance first, because it then lets you pay even more attention to those unconscious nonverbal cues that your client is putting out, so that you can respond and you can know where to guide that conversation. Okay, so I hope this is helpful. I feel like there was one more thing I wanted to address here. Let's talk about rapid inductions. So I will tell you, I have never, when I was at Mike Mandel's training in Toronto, he had us try rapid inductions, and I had so many limiting beliefs, and I was so insecure and nervous that I knew I couldn't do it right. And so when I tried to do it, it didn't work. And knowing that you can't do it is a really good way to ensure that it doesn't work. So if you like the idea of playing around with rapid inductions, which for any of you who don't know what that is, it's like when you tap somebody on the back of the neck and say, sleep now. There's lots of different ways to do it. I know some hypnotists, I've heard hypnotists say like 102 new rapid inductions that no one else is doing, but they're all based on essentially like shocking someone into hypnosis. And a few months ago, actually it's been a little over a year and a couple months ago, my apartment flooded. And it was a really kind of a traumatic thing for me. I was frustrated with myself because I'm a hypnotist and I understand, how people react in traumatic instances. But I was woken up in the middle of the night to my alarm going off in my apartment. And it was a big apartment complex, and we were on the bottom floor. And I was disoriented. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know what day it was. I didn't know what time it was. And when I walked out, I realized that the apartment above me, there was water just flooding down through the deck outside. And by the time I got my senses to myself enough to go back inside and get my laptop and my phone, those are the two things I thought to retrieve, there was water starting to come through my ceiling. And by the next morning, all of my belongings had been destroyed. And my daughter was with me as well. My adult daughter, she was with me. And so when we were driving to go stay the night at my sister's house, I went through a stoplight. I was not paying attention at all. And it's because this like shocking thing had happened to me, and it's literally put me in a trance where my unconscious mind was trying to figure out how to operate without my conscious mind. And that's essentially what happens in the state of a rapid induction. It's called a PGO spike. And I'm not going to try to explain that because I don't even understand it well enough, but PGO, I was going to try to say what that stands for, but I decided I'm not going to. It's like it hijacks that part of your brain that uses logic and common sense. And this is what happens in a trauma. And a rapid induction is not a trauma. Some of the keys, in fact, the absolute necessary components of being good at putting a person in a trance, whether you're analytical or not, whether they're analytical or not, is to be in rapport with that person, which means that person knows, likes, and trusts you. And when you tell them, I'm going to put you in a trance, they believe you. And when you tell someone you're going to put someone in a trance, you believe you. And again, this is so cool, you guys, because if you're analytical and you're thinking, oh, I don't know if I can do this, I don't know, I don't believe I can do it. Anything that assumes belief causes belief. And I promise you, if you pretend to believe and you imagine you believe, it works just as well. And one of the coolest ways to do that is to say, what if this does work? Like you might not be able to tell yourself, oh, I'm going to put this person into a trance. I'm going to do a rapid induction and it's going to be awesome. You might not be able to say that without like a part of you being like, BS, no, you're not, you can't do this. But a quick way to bypass that naggy little voice of self-doubt is to just say, what if I could? And start to vividly imagine you can, because guess what? Anytime you vividly imagine something happening, you are hypnotizing yourself to have it happen. And so by vividly imagining that you can be good at rapid inductions and, imagine that, and the best way to do this is to imagine the outcome, not the process. So don't imagine how you're going to put them into a rapid trance. Just imagine that they're just they're standing or sitting there and they're just hanging and they're in a trance and it worked perfectly. I hope this is helpful. I'm going to stop talking. I would love to see your comments below this video. If you have questions, if this sparked any further questions for you, I'm having a blast doing these YouTube videos in these Clubhouse rooms. And one of my favorite things about doing them is hearing from you and knowing what you want to hear about next, because my desire is to serve you and to equip you to make a difference in the world. So whether you're a hypnotist or not, you can use these tools for yourself or others. I don't necessarily recommend going around tugging other people on the back of the neck and telling them to sleep now. But you can use these tools. Like I said, the reason I use hypnosis is to help people step out of disempowering habits and behaviors, to heal from past trauma, to step out of a victim mentality, and to move forward with their life and create their life with purpose and destiny, and realize that the past does not dictate the future. So as I said before, I don't think trance is necessary for that. I do think that there are hypnotists who believe we're always in some form of trance or another. The more I understand hypnosis, the more I tend to agree, but you are good at trance. The only thing us analytical people need to keep in mind is that we're not going to know what it feels like, and that's okay. Sometimes we can, and you have likely experienced that sense of deep relaxation. And when you tell yourself, here's the last thing I wanted to cover. As I was trying to figure out, like, what is it that lets people be good at hypnosis? And my analytical mind was noticing all these other hypnotists who have analytical minds thinking I'm not good at trance. I asked, and this was only like a year into my career, I submitted a request to speak at HypnoThoughts, which is the biggest hypnosis conference in the world. And my topic was self-hypnosis for hypnotists or something like that. And the entire presentation was how the most effective form of hypnosis is changing your 4 Bs. I now say your 3 Bs, and I'll tell you what the 4th one was in a moment. And this can happen in a moment. Earlier, I said the body is the unconscious mind, and hopefully this will help tie that together for you. What we are doing with our body dictates how we are feeling. It dictates our state or the way we show up in the world. So if a person is depressed, I promise you they are doing something with their body language and their breathing that is keeping them in depression. And this isn't to discount, the chemical stuff that's going on with depression or the situational things in your life that might be causing depression. Please know that I am not discounting that. What my intent is to equip you to be able to step out of it no matter why you have it. And because I have experienced this in my own life as a person who has been diagnosed medically with severe clinical depression multiple times by multiple different people and have used these tools to step out of depression, I will boldly say that if you do this, you will be amazed at the results. And that's not to say, if you're under doctor's care, do what your doctor tells you and do this. So when a person changes their 3 Bs, it changes everything. And it's the quickest form of hypnosis in the world. And if you can't get a person into a trance the way you think of trance, you can just teach them how to change their 3 Bs over and over and over, and they will change on an identity level. So the 3 Bs are body language, breathing, and belief. And belief seems like this sticky, scary, difficult thing that's hardwired in, but it's not. All beliefs is your recycled, repeated self-talk. And I promise you, whatever it is that you believe, whatever disempowering belief you have now was installed there by someone other than you. Someone else hypnotized you to think that that thing is true and to say it over and over and over until you think it's your belief, but it's not even your belief at all. Because if you were to get down to the core of who you are and your innate wisdom that you came into this world with which you came into the world, you would realize that at your core, you realize that you are worthy. You are loved. You are the essence of love itself. You are perfect the way you are. You are enough. And if you have any belief that's going on that doesn't align with that, it is BS. I've heard people say BS is a faulty belief system. That's what BS stands for. But it's not hard to step out of it. And this is why. 2 things cannot occupy the same space at the same time. And as Shell said earlier, she's never seen anybody in anxiety when they have a relaxed, happy posture. You cannot be saying, all is well, I am okay, all is well. And it can be that simple. I recommend you keep this simple and be saying, oh, my life sucks, I'm screwed up, I'm never going to be okay at the same time. So the best way to overcome a faulty belief system is to start to install a new belief system. And if you've ever had someone teach you mantras or affirmations and they haven't worked, this is why. Here's the secret. That's just the 3rd B. And you must change your first 2 Bs before you change the 3rd one in order for it to be effective. And just in case I forget later, the 4th B that I taught when I did this presentation at HypnoThoughts is being. So when you change these 3 Bs over and over and over, it changes who you are being, how you are showing up in the world, the identity that you are taking on in the moment of the problem that used to be a problem. So let's walk through this together. I invite you, I double dare you, whether you're listening here on Clubhouse or you're watching this video on YouTube, whether you're sitting or standing or even listening in your car, which I don't know, probably a lot of people don't listen to YouTube videos in their car. I actually do sometimes. Imagine that there is a magic string that's pulling you up right from the center of the top of your head. And it's just really comfortably lifting you up. So you're not doing it by like bringing your shoulders up and becoming, tense, but you're doing it in a really relaxed way where you're just being pulled up from the top of your head. And that's actually allowing the rest of your body just to relax. It's allowing your bones to align. You can kind of shake a little bit. Imagine that you're a marionette on a string and you're just relaxed down with this upright posture. And now I invite you just to tip your chin ever so slightly up, to look up. And now I double dare you, no matter how uncomfortable it feels, no matter how not used to it you are, to smile big. Smile so big that the crinkles on your eyes crinkle up. So you're looking up, you're smiling, and now outstretch your arms. Keep that smile. And now let's change that second B, the breathing. I invite you just to take a deep breath in from your nose. Sip a little bit more air in through your nose, and then let it out through your mouth with a long sigh of relief. That is called a physiological sigh. And Dr. Andrew Huberman teaches that it immediately offloads stress chemicals from the body. So let's do one more of those just so you can practice the physiological sigh and know that this is a tool you can use to hypnotize yourself out of anxiety anytime from now on. So on the count of 3, let's do one together. It's a double inhale through the nose and a long sigh of relief out the mouth. Now let's plug in that third B. Try this on and just notice how you feel when you say, all is well. Everything is working out for my highest good. And I got this from Louise Hay. Out of this situation, only good will come. And I am safe. And if that's too much to remember, try this on it. I double dare you to see how this makes you feel. Look up, smile, outstretch your arms, breathe in a powerfully relaxed way, and say to yourself, I am okay. Say it in a voice you believe. You are your own best hypnotist. And when you say, I am okay, all that BS that you were saying to yourself before can't fit. Okay. I hope you all have loved this. I hope you have a clear understanding about what hypnosis is, how good you are at it already. Just the fact that a person would say, I'm not good at hypnosis, and then not be good at hypnosis proves you're really good at hypnotizing yourself to not be good at hypnosis. And so as you realize that, it will help you realize more and more how your self-talk dictates your behaviors, your states, your emotions, the way you show up in the world. And you can allow yourself to start to shift that self-talk. And if you shift your first 2 B's, your body language and your breathing first, your body will automatically tell you what to say next. Because when you're in a downward, depressed posture, your body is telling your mind what to think, and it's discouraging and it sucks. And if you simply shift, and I know it's hard when you're feeling depressed, you just got to do it without feeling like it. If you simply shift and let that magic string pull you up and you look up, depression is a downward focus. When you just shift and you start to focus upward and you start to breathe from low in the belly, take deep inhales. So if you struggle with depression, strengthen your inhale muscles. Take deeper breaths in and you will immediately shift out, and then you'll automatically know what to start saying to yourself. And it might be as simple as, I can do this. I am okay. The past does not dictate the future. If you struggle with anxiety, you'll want to shift your breathing in a little bit different way. So a person who is anxious tends to have more of a focus on the inhale. They tend to breathe higher in the chest and take more rapid in-breaths. So a person with anxiety, that physiological sigh that I just showed you is incredibly useful for shutting off anxiety. And if you just simply start to focus on your exhale and make your exhale a little longer than your inhale, it sends a message to the body that says, I am okay. And if you notice where you have tension in the body, because if you're anxious, you have tension somewhere, notice the tension and do not try to release the tension. Anytime. So one thing hypnotists know is that when they put the word try into their protocol, that it ensures failure. So when you try to do something, you're actually setting yourself up for failure. So rather than trying, just send your attention to that tension and just say, like, imagine that you could look at that clenched shoulder or those clenched fists or that, that tension in the body and just say, I see you. I see you. I can feel this and be okay. Sometimes that part of us just wants to be acknowledged. That tension just wants to be seen. And when we simply acknowledge it and stop trying to resist it, stop trying to run away from it, and stop telling ourselves a story that we're not okay, everything starts to shift. And I'm not saying it's going to be one Shazam fix and you're never going to struggle with anxiety or depression again. When I first started this work, I shared that the reason I became a hypnotist is because I was so relieved to not struggle with depression anymore. But that depression habit is something my body knows how to do. I'm never going to forget how to do depression. And so sometimes when it's winter and the days are short or something hard or difficult happens in my life or something happens that reminds me of a time in the past when I was depressed, my body will try to go into depression again. And I used to think, oh man, it didn't work. Here I am. I'm a hypnotist now. I'm helping people change their lives and I'm feeling depressed. I'm a fraud. It didn't work. And I'm sharing this so that you who are hypnotists who have maybe thought stuff like this in the past can knock it off. Because all it means is that you're recycling an old, useless, worn out habit. And it's an opportunity for you to notice your 3Bs and to shift them over and over and over. And ever since I stopped telling myself I sucked because I sometimes still feel depressed, I've noticed that my depression gets easier to step out of. It gets more and more infrequent. And I have plugged in happiness and joy and optimism as my default. And a big part of that, a big part of why I am unrecognizable from the human I used to be when I was sad Lori is because I started making videos and I watched my videos back and I'm like, I am boring. And I am like, why would anybody watch this video? I had this monotone voice and this like blank look on my face, even though I was trying really hard to be over the top and enthusiastic. So I started watching people who make videos and who smile and who have this tonality in their voice, and their voice goes up sometimes and it goes down sometimes. And I started modeling those people and literally speaking along with them and watching videos of people who could make an impact in the world. And I started smiling. I started smiling while I made the videos. And I will tell you, my face hurt at first because I was so unused to using my smile muscles. I was so used to using my pout muscles. And my face hurt for weeks after I started making videos and smiling. And I created this anchor that when I'm in front of the camera, I'm in front of the camera a lot in my weekly group calls, inside Trancey Tuesdays, inside my mastermind group, and I show up as happy Lori. And those of you who have been on those calls know that I have my moments. Sometimes I just get really emotional like I did in this video earlier. And I feel all the feels, and that's okay. It's okay to feel what you feel. But because I have shown up smiling and I've made that my default. And at first I felt like I was faking it. Guess what, you guys? Anything that assumes happiness causes happiness. And I have reprogrammed myself to be happy by changing my body, by changing my face, by changing the way I show up in the world, and not knowing how to do it, not waiting till it was perfect and not ever going into a trance, just by changing my 3Bs over and over and over. Okay. I'm going to stop talking for real. I hope you love this room. I love doing this room. I love you all. I love you who are here in Clubhouse, especially all of you, but those of you who show up regularly. I see you. I'm so happy that you're here. And those of you who are watching these YouTube videos, help me make this channel go viral. Subscribe to this video, share it on your social media if you feel so inclined. Here's a hypnotic suggestion. Watch, you are in hypnosis. Share my video. Have a beautiful day, my friends. I will see you if you're here in Clubhouse. I do these rooms every Monday and Wednesday at the time that it is in your time zone right now at the top of the hour. So I will see you here again on Monday. If you have suggestions for upcoming rooms, let me know, and have a beautiful day.